Welcome everyone. Welcome to the third week of the Austrian box. We're tasting this guy, 2021 Christophe Heiss Hot Rat Kamptal is what we're tasting today. Just a few announcements. I don't have that many today. Invoices went out for next month. Just let me know. I'm gonna start wrapping all that up next week. You still have some time, but yeah, just as always, let me know if you're not planning on joining next month, and I will so that way I can account for you. And if you are joining us, just go ahead and pay the invoice. And oh yeah, and a preview of next month. I am actually legit hesitant as well as a bit scared because it's not finalized. But next month, we're going to the last frontier, the last main wine region left in France that I have not put a wine box together in last 4 years, which is Bordeaux. So we're actually gonna have a Bordeaux box next month. I'm gonna try to make it more interesting than what I think Bordeaux is. I mean, to be honest, I just find Bordeaux so painfully boring. And that's why I have kind of pushed it off all these years, but it just came to me that after 4 years, I think I kind of have to at least
face your fears.
What's that?
Face your fears, embrace the challenge.
Exactly. At least get in there to see what it is. I can't be hiding behind my own bias and prejudice of that weekend. So I'm gonna push myself to go where I've once been scared to go. So we're gonna see what we're gonna find there. But you know, in a true 6 foot wine club fashion, I'm gonna try to find things that are a little different, not just a textbook traditional stuff. There will be some really, really beautiful kind of reference point wines in there as well. But there is, from what I've gathered, there's actually some really cool movement that's being made there in Bordeaux by young generation people, kind of like here in Austria, what we're doing this month. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but we're gonna go to Bordeaux next month. So there it is, the last region.
Here, Allison.
Yeah, the last region left in France. So yeah, invoices are out. Take care of that. And also, the rumor has it that Mr. Rosenberg, the Godfather himself, may be joining us back in starting next month. So you may be seeing Mr. Rosenberg on the call again. But TBD. Anyways, the last but not least, that's all the announcement I really have. The organization we're donating to this month, 1% by gross revenue, is GiveWell. Go check out what they do. It's a pretty actually awesome organization. And if you want to donate alongside 6 Foot Wine Club, the donation link is also in the chat box right there. Cool. Any questions about next month or whatnot before we get into the wine? Word. Well, if you're just joining us, we're tasting this guy, 2021 Christophe Heiss Hot Rat from Kamptal. Yeah, let's get into it. So, map of Austria, right? It's a couple reviews from all the things we've went over. If you look at the top left, you see how north Austria really is. Vienna, Austria is right here in the 40th parallel, in line with Washington, Quebec, Dijon, Burgundy, which is pretty far north. So we're talking about pretty far north. It's very cold. It's very continental up here. What makes it possible to grow viticulture possible here is this the moderating influence from the Danube River, which flows all the way from Vienna and flows out into Germany, right? As you can see, all the wine regions are pretty much on the eastern part of Austria. We are focusing mostly on right here in Niederösterreich, the biggest and the most significant, both in terms of quality as well as quantity that's being produced in Austria. But really where we're focused is on the left right here, these three, the Wackel, Kremstal, and Kamptal. We were in Kamptal last 2 weeks, and this week we're in Kamptal, which is the most eastern part of these three regions. And you may be wondering, and then this is really the region that's known for their white wines. Austria as a whole is really a country that's known for their white wines, mostly famously their Indonesian variety Gruner Veltliner, as well as Riesling, bone dry Riesling, a little more power and volume to their Riesling than you find in their German counterpart. German counterpart also has a little bit of sugar, but Austrian Riesling tend to be bone dry, as well. It just has more body and just more concentration. It's a lot more base notes, and then German Rieslings have a lot more treble notes. But out of all Austrian regions, these three are really kind of the creme of the creme. Kremstal is where we were last 2 weeks. Kamptal is where we are this week. As you can tell, this is all the Danube River as well as the tributaries. This is where all the wines are made up. Main wine regions are where they are. And you may be wondering, what exactly is the difference between these three? Is it the soil type? Is it exposition? Is it the elevation? What is it? But honestly, to tell you the truth, there isn't a whole lot. It's really all about the vineyard site location as well as individual producer style. So there is some, I mean, these three regions as a whole has the tightest and most strict wine making regulations out of all of Austria, out of all the regions. Austria as a whole has some of the tightest wine regulations out of all of Europe, all in the world, possibly, arguably. But even within that, these three regions have even tighter regulations around, maximum yield per hectare, maximum yield per press. They have different ripeness level that you have to achieve before you can call it Wachau appellation or Kremstal appellations. They have all these different things. But Wachau, the most western part, the most prized kind of sought after vineyards are here in Wachau. Some of the most well-known Austrian winemakers are, and their vineyard holdings, the most prized vineyard holdings are pretty much all here in Wachau. But that's not to say Kremstal and Kamptal are any less or any worse. It's just, these are historically where it's been when you look at the landscape, this will remind you a lot of like Mosel Valley in Germany. It's a very steep sloped vineyards on the side on the banks of the Danube River, reminiscent of the German Mosel Valley. It does get a little bit flatter here, but nonetheless, it's still quite sloped depending on the parts, especially if you're right along the riverbanks, these different tributaries. And the Danube River also flows through part of Kremstal. So it really depends on where the vineyard is, depending on what the winemaker does. So it does require a little bit of homework on your part to figure out who the best or what your preference is. But really, when it turns down to kind of even the quality or even the flavor profile, it really isn't that whole lot of difference between three regions. At least I haven't noticed anything in my career of tasting Austrian wines. And maybe somebody who's a much sharper, better taster than I am can tell the subtleties between these three regions. But really, to me, I've noticed that it's really the where the vineyard is and then what the winemaker does, but not necessarily one region is better than other. But as a whole, these three, I mean, it's a very small region, as you can see. I mean, like if you look at the entire Austria, we're talking about this little sliver of a corner. These three regions is basically where we are. But however, we're in Kamptal. So we're in Kremstal last 2 weeks, and we're in Kamptal this week. But just know that this is very, very cold in the winter. It's a continental climate, so it gets pretty warm and dry in the summertime, and very cold in the wintertime. But the moderating influence from the river is what makes viticulture possible here. So who makes this wine? By the way, next week we're finally going to be near Austria, and then we're going to go to Burgenland. We're going to wrap up the month with the Burgenland next month. Is this guy? And you may be wondering, is he the winemaker or is he the helper that works there? Because he looks like a baby, and he is a baby. His name is Christophe Heiss. He's merely a 29-year-old kid. Yeah, he grew up in the winemaking family. His family, the Heiss family, has been making wine for generations. And he caught the wine bug early. In fact, growing up, he had there's nothing else he was going to be besides a winemaker. That's what he knew he wanted to be, and he never veered from that. So he attended wine school, the enology school in Austria. He found it to be quite theoretical, and he wanted to get in the field and start working, get some real hands-on experience. So he immediately actually left Austria upon graduation and started working harvest around the world. He went to New Zealand in 2011, then spent 2012 in Germany. Then in 2014, by the way, that New Zealand and Germany experience was at a very conventional winery. It wasn't like a natural winery or mineral invention or anything like that. Then in 2014, he came back home in 2013 briefly, worked at his family vineyard winery for a year. And then in 2014, he went out to South Africa, where it completely changed the course of his trajectory as a winemaker. He went to Swartland in South Africa. If you guys remember South African month, that's kind of in the northwestern part of South Africa. That's where we taste the wine from Tessalonga. If you remember that head ad with a cute little French bulldog on the front label. It was a Shannon Blanc pen ad that we had, a delicious one that everybody liked. Anyways, Craig Hawkins of Tessalonga, the winemaker there, he decided to go. Christophe went and worked for Craig Hawkins in South Africa, and this is the first time he was exposed to this kind of a minimal intervention, raw, organic farming style, very light touch in the cellar style of a winemaking, and it basically made him question everything that he learned in school. And this idea of natural wine and minimal intervention style became kind of the creed of his own wines. So he returned to his homeland and then immediately started working in his families. And they're not big; it's a 12-hectare plot. And recognizing his passion and his dedication, his parents, at his ripe age of 28, handed the winery over to Christophe. So now, as a 29-year-old, he is in charge of the entire winemaking for the family, and then he makes 2 lines of wines. So if you look at the back label of this wine, it says Weingut Heiss. That's actually his family's name. Is a family winery. So the Volker. If you look underneath, they imported by Volker Wine Company. They import both lines of his wines. So the first line is Weingut Heiss wines. This is actually mislabeled. So the first label, Weingut Heiss, is actually his parents' style wine. So it's very much a clean, classic, that Kamptal appellation wines that adheres to that regulation that I was talking about. He makes that, and those are actually beautiful wines as well. If you're looking for that kind of classic reference textbook style wines, those are that. But he makes a second line, which is a Malinga wines, which is what this is one of. This is basically his kind of a passion project, and this is his kind of experimental line. So he's making all of his Malinga lines are unfiltered, unfined, no sulfur added. We're talking about pretty much of like a extreme minimum intervention natural wine, and he's foregone the Kamptal appellation. He doesn't care about that regulation. He just wants to make wine in the way he thinks that best represents the land and the varieties the vintage that he's working with. So he's kind of makes both of them. So he's got the old school family wines that the style that families been making for a while under the Weingut Heiss label. And then now he makes this Malinga line, which is all of his experimental 0.0, no sulfur added natural wine. If you guys remember, I talked about this for a bit, the Swartland Revolution. It's that kind of like the group of young generation of winemakers that are moving to that place and then kind of figuring out how to work with that land, how to make natural wine there, how to farm organically without irrigation in the middle of the desert. And then he was really inspired by all of that. So he's actually forming his kind of own association, so to speak, or a band. He's grouping a band of these young winemakers together in Kamptal. which is arguably a very traditional, rigid area of Austria. I mean, Austria as a whole is a very rigid country when it comes down to wine, but especially Kamptal, just being the creme of the creme, they're very protective of their tradition and all of that. And in the middle of that, he's forming this kind of a band of young wine makers who are willing to go against the grain and make wines like this. The land of some of the arguably, debatably, the best age-worthy white wines in the world, he's making co-fermented red and white blend. Is this rosé? Is this red? Is this, what is this? Who cares? Kind of a thing is pretty daring. And I'm pretty excited to see what kind of evolution his wines take. But I've tasted through his Malinga lines as well as his Weingut Heiss wines, and I was really impressed. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing where he goes and if and when this guy becomes a big hot shot. You can all say you knew him back when you first saw him feature here at 6 Foot Wine Club, because this is only like a second vintage that he's ever made. All right. So what is this wine? This is a 50% Saint Laurent, 40% Rotberger, and 10% Müller-Thurgau. It's a lot of German-sounding things. So Saint Laurent is a popular variety, not only here in Austria, but in Central Europe. So you'll find some of that in Czechoslovakia or Czech, as well as Slovakia, some in Hungary as well. It is definitely a hybrid of Pinot Noir is one parent variety, but the second one is not actually certified. Nobody really knows, but they guess that it's Savagnin, which is an indigenous variety of Jura, but not confirmed. So yeah, it's a hybrid grape. Third most planted red grape variety in Austria after Blaufränkisch and Zweigelt. Mostly planted in Niederösterreich, which is the region that we're in. And it produces kind of like really light, red berry-driven, bright red wine. Really, I like it a lot as a kind of like a summer red. Put a little chill on it. Delicious, a lot of strawberry running through. If you're looking for something different to try in Austria, check out St. Laurent. It's a cool grape. Rotberger is also known, Rotberger with a U in it. So rot, like a hot rod that you see, rot, and then burger with a U in it, not ER. So Burger, not Berger. Rotberger is also known as Zweigelt. When you're talking about Austrian red variety, we're really talking about Blaufränkisch and Zweigelt. And Zweigelt is a crossing between Blaufränkisch and Saint Laurent. The Saint Laurent that I just talked about, and that cross with another indigenous variety called Blaufränkisch is what Zweigelt is. But they also call it, in Austria, they call it Rotberger. It was created by Friedrich Zweigelt in 1922. So they call it Zweigelt. Produces really dark, spicy, deep red. So if you're into that style of a much deeper, fuller, bigger, kind of a spicy red, then I recommend that you check out Zweigelt. Here's the confusing part. Rotberger with a U in it is Zweigelt. Rotberger with an E in it, so Rotberger, is actually a complete different red grape variety. There's a crossing between Challenger and Riesling. So you may go to a store, and if you see Rotberger, you have to know that it's a B-U-R-G-E-R or B-E-R-G-E-R. The U-R-G-E-R is Zweigelt, B-E-R-G-E-R is a different crossing. I know it's very confusing. I don't know why I shouldn't have thought that was a good way to go, but there it is. But oftentimes these days, you rarely see Rotberger spelled with a U. You will see it just as Zweigelt spelled on the label. And then finally, Müller-Thurgau, which is a German hybrid grape between Riesling and then another ancient variety called Madeleine Royale that was created in 1882. It's pretty widely planted in Germany. At one point, it was the most planted white grape variety in Germany. It's all over Central Europe as well, from Hungary all the way up to Czech and Slovakia as well. It is like a light-skinned white grape variety. Produces aromatic, fruity, kind of meant to be drunk young and fresh kind of style of wine. Never like serious wine, but nonetheless delicious, good kind of poolside wine. So we're talking about Saint Laurent, red bay driven, 50%, 40% Rotberger, also known as Zweigelt, which is kind of dark, spicy, kind of big berry, 40%. and then final 10% of that kind of aromatic, light, zippy, fresh, young white wine. All of that, all organically grown. We're talking about 20 to 40-year-old vines. So some age on these vines. Very traditional winemaking. We're talking about a whole bunch. Just took all of them, threw them in a barrel or threw them in a vessel, and then foot treaded, and then it was pressed into a stainless steel tank where it fermented on a native yeast, and then aged 5 further months on the lees in stainless steel. So there's no wood touch here whatsoever. This is all stainless steel. It was not temperature controlled, so it does go through full mallow. So we'll talk about that when we get to tasting it. This is one of the few wines where I actually picked up mallow on the nose, which is I'm pretty bad at. So full MLF on this one, and then unfiltered, unfined, and no added sulfur, which is a pretty incredible thing considering how clean and stable this wine is. But there's no added sulfur to this wine, which is a testament to his impeccable farming as well as really clean winemaking. So that's what we have here. And then, just to say a couple things about this wine, the reason I picked wines like this and this whole month, and I've been saying this last 2 weeks as well, but, it's about, you don't need yet another Somm telling you to drink Gruner, Riesling, even though I love those things. Don't get me wrong. I can talk about Gruner, Riesling, Austrian Gruner, Riesling all day, but you don't need yet another Somm to tell you to go drink Austrian Riesling and Gruner. I just wanted to kind of highlight these young people who are doing different things. And for the first time in a big kind of a massive, like on an international stage, they're making their ways over to the US market that is not just Gruner and Riesling. And I think it's pretty exciting. And I just want to see more and more of those things pop up. So yeah, it's a way to kind of highlight the kind of the underground, smaller, younger generations movement in Austria against the tradition. And this is, to me, this kind of all the wines that I picked this month kind of exemplifies all of that. And this is particularly one of those as well. We're talking about a guy, again, 29-year-old dude that is just starting to make wine on his own. Even though he does have a long years of experience making wine, but this is the first time he's really making it on his own. And then doing things completely different from what the rest of his colleagues or older colleagues and parents' generations were doing around him. So a lot of baubles on this young kid, and hoping to see where his wines go over the years. Cool. Let's do any questions before we taste the wine? Cool. Who wants to take the appearance? Come on.
I'll do it since I can't like smell or taste anything.
All right then.
Because I have this bad head cold. So I think the clarity is clear.
Yeah, this wine is pretty clear.
It's like really clear. It's really quite beautiful, actually.
Yeah. Considering that this was never filtered or refined, it's actually quite clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Intensity. I think medium.
Okay.
But I might be I'm kind of not in the greatest place with light. But I think medium. It's certainly not deep, but maybe medium to pale.
Yeah, I want to call this pale. Like I can see.
Do you think it's pale?
Yeah, okay. I can see every letter on my keyboard through the wine.
Okay,
like
is that
very
my test?
clearly.
I need to be looking at the.
Yeah. So I'll call this like pale, and then color.
Oh, color is beautiful. It's like, gosh, it's you said rosé. I would say it's like this deep pink or something. I don't think of it. Salmon, I think of more super pink. But this is like a rosy pink, like a red rosy pink.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what do you call this? This is what I mean. Like categorically, is this a rosé? Is red wine and white wine, white
Or it could
grapes?
be red. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
think it's
the
so, it's
light
more
red.
ruby, I
Yeah, to
guess.
me, this is more ruby than
Ruby.
it is anything
Sorry,
else.
ruby. Okay.
But yeah, again, it's just wines like this is really hard to categorize. Like, is it red? Is it rosé? Does it matter?
Yeah.
But to me, the color of it here reminds me more of like a really light red, like a
Even,
ruby
yeah.
color, like a pink or salmon color. So I will call this ruby. Yeah. Any other observations?
I didn't see any super, like when I poured it, maybe there were slight bubbles, but it might have just been the way I was pouring it, but it just seems really smooth, really kind
Okay.
of, yeah, smooth.
Yeah, it's pretty color. It's really pretty in the glass. In the lights.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. You get to pick the next person for the gnomes.
Who's let's see. David?
Sorry, did you say my name?
I did.
Oh, okay.
All right, gnomes.
All right. Let's see. I'm not gonna say it's unclean, but it's
Yeah, exactly. It's not squeaky clean.
yeah, I get a lot of I don't know if it's VA but it's almost vinegary smell.
Yeah, there's a touch of VA here. I mean, like we've had wines that are much higher in VA than this one, but there's definitely a little bit of elevated VA here for sure. And also, it just feels like a farm wine. Was it made in like somebody's farm in a barn? I'm not calling it barnyard or dirty, but like like that this was not like a squeaky lab made in a like a completely squeaky clean lab. But it's something cool. But mostly, I mean, still, I wouldn't call, like you said, I wouldn't call this unclean, but I wouldn't call this like squeaky clean either.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, when I first opened it, maybe it smelled actually faulty.
Yeah.
It's cleaned up a little bit.
Okay. But this wine is definitely sound. There's nothing that went wrong here. It's more of this is the style of wine that he was making. He wants to make really untouched, very light touch wine with no sulfur on it. And then, without sulfur, there's usually things that you're gonna smell because there's more bacteria and enzymes in
Yeah.
So intensity?
I'd say medium. I get it about an inch off the rim.
Yeah, agreed. Like I get it like here. So it's pretty close to the rim. So I'll call this my medium myself. Medium intense aromas of.
I mean, it is closer to rosé than a red, certainly. Trying to think if there's any floral something in there. Maybe a chamomile.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really hard one to like really pinpoint. There's a lot of things going on, but it's not like one like very clear thing. But yeah, like to me, there's some sort of a like a dry chamomile, some sort of like a dry rose petal kind of a thing going on here for sure.
And I'd say probably, I mean, definitely some citrusy, maybe some pear.
Yeah.
I don't think any stone fruit or maybe some apricot. I could go apricot.
Yeah.
But then is a little bit of that strawberry you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting mix.
Ton of red fruit here, like strawberry, red cherry, raspberry, cranberry, all of that.
Yeah.
I also, and this is the interesting part of it, there are certain things that are not on here, but like to me, for some reason, like watermelon rind is where my like head goes. There's some sort of like a little bit of that like not fully savory, but like not fully fruity either. That like somewhere in the middle, like the white part of the watermelon, that kind of stuff, a little bit running through here.
Hmm.
Maybe like white strawberries, probably another way somebody would say. But yeah, definitely a lot of red fruit, a lot of strawberry, cherry, cranberry, all that stuff for sure. Raspberry.
Okay.
Nature of the fruit.
Mostly fresh. I mean, you mentioned some dried flowers.
Yeah.
And I mean, I will say that to me, the VA is kind of interfering with my the fruit expression to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still get it. Like when I take a really big whiff, I still get a fair amount of it.
Mm.
But yeah, it's mostly I'm not really getting any like dried or cooked fruit.
Yeah. To me, this is very fresh, very ripe. Fruit here for sure. There's some like red plumminess here as well. Any herbaceous, herbal, any spice?
No, I'm not getting any of that.
Yeah. And you know, the earlier kind of was I saying, like that kind of like a watermelon wine thing. Maybe I could put it down here with some of that non-fruit thing, but I don't know. There's some of that here. Something savory here that is not necessarily like green, but you know, something like that. Any pepper? Any stone?
Actually, I don't get any mineral.
I don't get much mineral here either. You could convince me there's maybe like a turn of like white pepper or two, but there's something a little spicy, something a little savory, but mostly really what I get is this. Is
Yeah.
this red fruit, some citrus here, like lemon peel, and then some of these kind of dry rose petals, dry chamomile kind of a thing. That's what I get most of it. The other things is kind of like little layers here and there. Okay. Any secondary or tertiary?
Um, I mean, you mentioned MLF. I guess I'm getting that a little bit more like a cream than a butter, though, to me.
Yeah. It's it blew off a little bit. Like I get a lot more like just raw fruit now. But when I first opened it, I remember taking a whiff and I was like, ooh, some like creme fraiche yogurt kind of a thing. Um, yeah, like it's not so much now, but yeah, definitely not butter, but like definitely like a cream, like a creme fraiche kind of a thing. Like berries and cream kind of a thing. Vibe is what I got when I first kind of smelled it. Less so now. I got a lot more of that when I first opened it. All right. Any obviously no sign of oak.
Oak.
Yeah. Any tertiary?
I don't think so.
Yep. It's very fresh. We're talking about pretty much all of this. We're living up here in the primary land. All right, you get to pick the next person for the palette.
Let's see. How about Cecilia?
Hello.
Hello.
So it's dry.
Yep.
I think the acidity is like a medium to me. Or I don't know if it's like medium, but my palate's just
No, I agree with you. I
yeah.
call this medium as well.
The tannin's low, but I think I get like a little bit, I feel like
Me too. I get a little bit, but it's not a whole lot. So yeah, I'm gonna call this low as well.
the alcohol I think is like medium minus.
Call a percentage. What do you think this is?
I think it's less than 12.
Yeah, I was
It's
thinking,
not
I was
like,
gonna.
not like 8. I don't know. Something.
Did you say 8?
No, it's not like 8.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say like 12, 11. So yeah, that would be medium minus. Body.
Like 2% milk. medium,
Yeah, I'm gonna call this actually medium minus. To me, this is
little lighter.
yeah, a little bit lighter. But yeah, it's like somewhere here, medium minus medium. Definitely not going to medium plus, but yeah,
It's like
That's what I would
like 1%.
like 1%. Yeah.
No,
Mousse, we don't have to worry about flavor intensity.
like medium plus, medium plus, somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
I'm gonna call this medium as well. I also think this wine, I remember this being a lot more expressive. So maybe it's something to actually, it takes time for it to open up a little bit. But I remember first time I tasted it, it was actually quite more expressive. It was kind of a little more exploding out of the glass. But right now, in my glass, I'll call this a medium as well. So medium on the nose and a medium on the palate. All right. Do you agree with everything that Dave called out? Is there anything else that you get?
Yeah, I get the little bit of floral, like rose. Definitely the red fruit, but like all fresh. That's what that's about it for, yeah, I guess, and a little bit of citrus, like, yeah, some lemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get this citrus thing. I get a little bit this like orangey kind of a feel to it, to this wine. But yeah, definitely get some like a lemon peel, orange peel, something
Yeah.
like that here. But yeah, definitely kind of that like a dry chamomile, dry rose, citrus, and then this is where it lives. This is it. You know, to all the red, the strawberries, red plum.
Get a lot of strawberry. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of strawberries for sure. Any spices, rocks, herbaceousness, anything savory, anything like that?
I'm not getting that, but I'm also not often good at tasting.
Yeah, I don't, I call that waterline thing on the nose, but I'm not really getting a whole lot of it on the palate, honestly. I think I was just like looking for something. You know what? Now that I actually just pour myself a fresh glass, find this actually just ever so slightly reductive here. I get a little bit of that farty boiled egg thing. So yeah, definitely give it some time. I think this wine will open up with some time. So if you have some wine left, come back to it and visit it again tomorrow. I have a feeling this wine is going to be a lot more, a lot fruitier tomorrow, a lot more expressive than today. Or decanted if you want to drink tonight. All right. Yeah, not a whole lot of minerality here. Just to me, is a very just kind of a red fruit driven. Yeah. Any secondary things here?
I'm not tasting any. No, it just tastes very, very fresh.
Very fresh. The acid doesn't feel super sharp. It is a bit of a round, so maybe again the sign of MLF. Again, is knowing that I know that this wine has gone through full mallow, so maybe it's just a power of suggestion.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily taste cream, like I did on the nose initially, but smell
like
on the nose initially.
Mouthfeel.
Yeah, mouthfeel. Just a little bit like a rounder, not as sharp, jagged acid as you would normally find. So, but yeah, again, mostly we're talking about red fruit, citrus, dry flowers. It's basically what this one's what we're talking about. Length.
Medium plus. It's staying for me anyway.
I'm gonna call this about medium,
Medium.
but yeah, it's not necessarily short. It's not the lower and the medium. So like to me, it's like a smack dab in the center above medium. So call this about medium. All right, so take it home for us. How good is this wine? And would you age it?
So we said it was medium plus, or no, like medium flavor and
Yeah, intensity.
aroma. Yeah, intensity.
So yeah, intensity wise, we're medium. First, do you think this wine is balanced?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so too.
Yeah.
So balance, medium intensity, complexity.
It was all primary pretty much, I think, except
Yeah.
for a little bit of fluff. I think you
Yeah, so pretty much all primary. We do have some little flower, red berries, citrus, so some, three different things, but all primary. So what would you call that? If you have to put up, yeah, if you have to read medium, sure. Medium, medium minus, but medium. And then the length, what do we call it?
Medium.
Medium. So we're looking at kind of medium all across. So what would you call that?
Good.
Good. This wine is good. It's a good wine. Would you age it?
It's not very acidic and there's not a lot of tannins, so probably not.
Yeah, exactly. One, it just doesn't have a whole lot of structure to it here. It's not like a ripping acid or anything like that. And even on the concentration, we don't have a whole lot of concentration. We call it kind of medium, both on the nose and the palate. So I would say drink it now. This is the way it was meant to be drunk. Enjoy it. It's fresh, young, really kind of like the varietal character, the freshness of it is what this wine is all about. And that's what we got. So I would say drink it now and don't worry about aging it. Cool. Any questions? That's a good call. The dustiness is what I meant by like a little dirty. It's just kind of like dusty berries and yeah. Little salinity. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's actually a little salinity for sure. Good call. Any questions? Cool. How many of you guys like this one? Did anybody not like this one? Dave thinks so-so.
Verging towards good. It's
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty good. I wouldn't say, oh my God, I need a case of this right now. But
Oh yeah. Again, this is for 29-year-old kid who's making his second vintage on his own and making it with no sulfites whatsoever. I'm pretty impressed with where this wine is. And like I said, I can't wait to see where these wines go. So yeah, just want to showcase some young movement that's happening there. All right. Well, how much do you think this wine is? How much do you think this wine is on the retail shelf? How much would you be happy paying for this wine? And here's the thing about this wine, it's wines like this that really reminds me, and this is where that the quality scale on the grid sometimes bothers me, right? It's like this wine will never be more than good on that scale because of the complexity, lack of complexity, concentration, and all of that. But every wine has time and a place for it. And not every wine should be these kind of like thought-provoking, sit there and just kind of, pontificate upon the glass. Like it should not be that. And to me, well, honest, pure wine like this is just as big good as any of the thoughtful wines. It just depends on the occasion of it. And time to time I could come across wines, even though it's quite, in most people's minds, simple, but it is quite good. It's very enjoyable. And, I use this analogy quite a bit all the time, like a lot of punk rock, like Green Day, for example. They make music out of 3 chords. A lot of punk rock bands make music out of 3 chords. It's super simple, and not every music should be a Philharmonic orchestra, and it's just as fun, it's just as enjoyable. And sometimes, quite frankly, depending on the occasion and the mood, it's even better. You don't want to listen to orchestra. You just want to listen to some goddamn punk. You want to listen to some Sex Pistols, and that's okay. And to me, this is the kind of wine that reminds me of that in the wine. So anyways, they're done. 20, 24, 25, 25, 20, 25, 30, 30, 20, 35. You guys are getting good at this. Dana, 35, 40. All right. This wine on the retail shelf would be David Corlette, $25. Would be
I was
exactly
being the
what this-
contrarian.
Yeah. There you go. Any questions? Or any other questions? Also, I think it's been a while since we've had a good wine on the tasting that we've called squarely good. It's always been like somewhere between good and very good or very good. So it's good. I like it. I like it. Cool.
Yeah, not much of a daring label for a daring wine though, right?
Yeah, yeah. I hear you. I hear you. He has some other wines that have a really fun labels, but I don't know why this one doesn't have a daring label or a fun label. But I agree. I agree.
Name though, Hot Rot.
Yeah, I like the name.
Maybe you can only have one part of it be avant-garde.
There's a funny like cow with a laurel wreath on its head on the back.
That's Volker wines.
That's his logo.
Yeah, that's it. It's their logo. Yeah. Their wines, by the way, Volker wines. They import a lot of Austrian wines, and their wines are good, quite good. So if you guys like Austrian wines, if this month is hitting your Austrian curiosity and you want to taste more of it, and if you see Volker wine in a wine store, give it a try. I like their wines quite a bit. They bring a lot of cool stuff. So, anyways, any other questions about the wine or anything else? All right, we're hearing none. I'll stop the recording.